Hi there, everyone. Happy Friday. Miss Pickerskill here. So we are going to go through today looking at Food Waste Fighter. Let me just click the slides on. And Food for Thought. Okay, so for Friday. So we've got quite a jam-packed reading session for the end of the day to get ready for the weekend. So let's have a look. Food Waste Fighter. This is a brand new chapter. This is chapter number 3. So this probably will be quite different to what we've covered in the previous weeks. Let's have a look. The saying goes that you are what you eat. One thing's for certain, whatever you eat, your diet has some effect on the planet. Some foods and ways of farming, though, have a greater impact than others. Lots of land. Land may seem endless, but it covers less than 30% of the planet. About a tenth of this is made up of icy glaciers, and another fifth, such as mountaintops and deserts. So they cannot support crops at all. All of the land that remains, half of it is used for farming. More than 3 times as much land is used for farm animals as for growing crops. Cows, sheep, and other farm animals create almost 15% of all the climate changing gases generated by human activity. Wow. Intense farming. People's demand for food has seen farming change. Intensive farming uses giant fields and lots of chemicals to produce greater amounts of crops. As a result, areas of the woodland and hedgerows, which are like our hedges, which once divided fields and provided homes for wildlife, have been destroyed, reducing our biodiversity and productivity. Poisonous pesticides, and we've talked about this before, haven't we, last week? Pesticides are chemicals sprayed on crops which kill weeds or insects that eat the crops. Many of the poisonous substances they contain remain in the soil or are washed into our rivers, which then causes our acid rain when we were talking about our ecosystem last week. These chemicals can build up in food chains, harming lots of different animals. A study in 2019 found 100 different pesticides in small rivers and all the way across Europe. Natural helpers. Organic farmers use methods with less environmental impact, such as encouraging ladybirds in their fields to eat pests instead of using pesticides. They may also look at plants that can live beside other plants to help save them. Organic farming creates less pollution but smaller harvests, so the food is often more expensive. And you do find that when you look in the supermarket, some of the organic food there is, if you've got, for example, organic tomatoes, they are more expensive than the non-organic ones. Really interestingly, when we looked last week, we did look at pesticides, didn't we, and the effect that it had on the ecosystem to do with our acid rain, and also the population of some of our insects dying because of them eating these pesticides and then not surviving. A really a massive thing that I think we might talk about in this book is the use of vegetables. And you'll find, I don't know if you've seen, your parents might buy them because I sometimes do, the ugly vegetables or the odd vegetables, and they're the vegetables like carrots and parsnips that don't look how we would normally think that they look. They might be a bit wonky, for example, and a lot of the supermarkets throw them away because they don't look right. And that's so much food waste. So what they've tried to do now is get odd boxes where they send you all of the odd fruit and vegetables, because they still taste the same, but they just look a bit different. So let's have a look at our final couple of pages. So food for thought. Even though mountains of food are produced, technically enough to feed everyone, people still go hungry every day, and people in this country as well. Much food is wasted, and food consumption is not spread evenly around the world. World hunger. People in wealthy countries, that's countries that have lots of money, have so much food that their biggest health problems often come from overeating and obesity. Yet millions of people, usually in poorer countries, face a daily battle to get enough food to survive. Hunger is not the peckish feeling you get when you miss the odd meal. So that's when your tummy starts to rumble a bit, probably at the end of school before your tea. That's not what it is to starve. That's it if you are desperately lacking food. So that means you've not eaten maybe in a couple of days. And that means that your body cannot stay healthy. According to the World Food Programme, 795 million people, twice the population of America, are undernourished. And that means they're not given enough food to help their body function really, and that then makes them underweight, and then all of their organs can't function very well and become very unhealthy. This means they do not get enough nutrients for their body to grow or be able to fight off diseases. This leads to some horrifying statistics. Around 21,000 people die each day from starvation. Undernutrition causes the deaths of 3.1 million children each year. Hunger and climate change. This is when we're linking back to our topics this week and last week. Many people who struggle to get enough food live in areas of the world that are particularly vulnerable to extreme weather events, such as droughts, that means that there isn't any water, or flooding, which means there's too much water. Natural disasters are often made worse by climate change. When they occur more frequently, it becomes harder for farmers to recover, and so food shortages increase. A fairer food system. Your plate of food may contain items from the other side of the world. While this gives you incredible choice, ferrying food, so traveling food around, uses up fossil fuels and creates greenhouse gas emissions. So like we were talking about the burning of oil, weren't we? We said about coal. That's not good for the environment because it's not renewable. So it makes our earth hotter, and then it again creates a lot of climate change. So we're pumping stuff in the air that is not good for us, or the animals, or the plants, or any of our ecosystem. Here are some tips to help make your dinner eco-friendly as well as ethical. So number 1, read about the causes of global hunger, which we have looked at, haven't we? When you buy exotic products such as tea, chocolate, and bananas, buy fair trade to support the farmers. Buy organic food from local farms. This is your smaller shops as well, instead of your bigger shops, and especially when they're in season as well, because there's a lot of fruit and vegetables that are sold at certain times of year, because that's when they grow best. Okay. Eat more meat-free meals and follow the tips in the next chapter to make sure that you don't waste as much. And finally, have a go at growing your own fruit and veg. Now, I have a bit of a story about this one. We had a few wonky parsnips at Christmas time, because outside in my garden, we are growing lots and lots of different vegetables like spring onions, our herbs, we're doing parsnips, turnips, potatoes, carrots. And we wanted lots of parsnips for Christmas, and we dug them up, and there was some very funny shapes. Some of them looked like they had legs and arms, but they tasted the same. They looked different, but they still tasted the same. So that made me feel really good, the fact that we'd grown them and then we could eat them. So maybe you could look at some little things that you can grow. I know tomatoes aren't too hard to grow. So have a look with your parents and see what else you can grow at home that can help save our ecosystem and not pollute any of our ecosystem any further. So, so we've looked at our food waste fighter. So again, just to recap, we're looking at farming for the majority of that, and actually how harmful it can be to have cows and sheep, because the amount that you have to put in there to help them live, and the land that they take up, it actually is potentially quite harmful. And the fact that our planet is not made up of a lot of land, is it? It's a lot of water. And again, looking at those poisonous pesticides, so the poison that the farmers have to put on their crops to meet our demand, to meet our want to have all of this food in our supermarkets, they've got to poison those animals. And then again, it leaves poison on the food that we eat. And it's not going to kill us, but it's not very healthy for us, but also poisoning the environment. And then going on for food for thought, for us to think about the food, and also for even though we've got this massive demand in a rich country like us, there are areas of the world that are not rich and they do not get the food, believe it or not, that they should have. And there's a lot of children, looking at 3.1 million children around the world die purely from no food, which might seem incredible to us in a bad way, that they don't have enough food, because we it's something that we do take for granted. So maybe we really need to think about, when we are eating, not to leave that on our plate and put it in the bin. We really need to make sure that we're eating and we're cooking what our portions are, and we're not wasting it. What I'm trying to do now is whatever I cook at the night time before, have it for my lunch the next day, so I'm not wasting it. Okay, right, everyone. So, what I want you to do is have a think about what you can do with your food. Maybe you could have a chat with your parents, see what you can do with your parents for their food and what they use and where they go and shop at the supermarket and see what solutions that you can come up with. Okay, everyone, have a lovely weekend and I will see you next week.